Today, I was looking through Discord and a buddy of mine, Manny, sent me an article that legit intrigued me. And I legitimately think this could be the single biggest error made in the video game industry over the last decade.
We have a problem.
So now that you're intrigued, let's go on ahead and dive on in. I know you're probably thinking, oh, dang it, he got me. It's probably clickbait. It actually isn't, and I'm going to go on ahead and build my case for why I think this was such a huge misplay. But then I will also justify as to why I think Xbox made this massive mistake. So spoiler alert, the mistake was committed by the Xbox team. So in an interview that was conducted with Jay Ong, I think is how you would spell that, O-N-G. Yes, I know that that's an acronym that a lot of you guys use nowadays as on God. It is Jay Ong, who was the head executive for Marvel Games. And he went ahead and did an interview. And during that interview, he reveals that back in 2014, Xbox had actually turned Marvel down. Yes, you heard me correctly. There was a separate branch of the multiverse where Xbox was actually the company making Marvel games, but they actually chose to turn the offer down. So let's back up a little bit here because I know some of you guys probably don't have all the context as to what exactly happened. Well, back in 2014, the reason why that year was so important for Marvel as a whole was the fact that that was the year when their exclusive licensing deal with Activision was coming to an end. Before that, if you don't know, Activision was the exclusive studio that got to make Spider-Man games, Marvel games as a whole. They made all the Spider-Man games that we love. Sounding like a bit of a bad breakup, Activision said, "Good luck with finding your unicorn," believing that they would not be able to find anyone that would do a better job than Activision. Contextualizing all this, 2014, Marvel was already hype. Like the brand was popping and firing on all cylinders. Yes, it didn't reach its level that it got to with like Infinity War and Endgame, but we're talking the Avengers movie was already out for 2 years. Brand as a whole was definitely firing on all cylinders except for the gaming department. So it's very, very surprising that Xbox didn't see this and they basically gave their excuse as, oh, we want to focus on our own studios and our own IP. Now, this is where I went ahead and was like, okay, well, let's see what was going on in 2014 with Xbox. I know that it's important to get a little bit of context there. Well, I pulled up the actual list, and at that time, they were working on Project Spark, Forza Horizon 2, Titanfall, and Sunset Overdrive. But the reason why I wanted to list Sunset Overdrive last was because if you don't know, the studio that made Sunset Overdrive is actually Insomniac Games. If you're like going like, that sounds incredibly familiar. Well, the reason why it should sound incredibly familiar is because that is the studio that was ultimately tasked with making Marvel's Spider-Man, which was the big success from this new partnership that we have seen between Sony and Marvel Games. In some alternate universe, if Sunset Overdrive was successful in 2014, I truly, truly do believe that Xbox would have been far more likely to A, purchase Insomniac, B, go on ahead and make this deal happen. But I think that a lot of the problems that Xbox was having at that point in time was that if we look at the projects in just that calendar year of 2014, Titanfall, it was well received, but it wasn't like the big giant success that I think they were hoping for. Same thing with the Sunset Overdrive, even though it is an absolutely tremendously fun game, but those were kind of failures, which is why it's so confusing as to why they wouldn't agree to the Marvel deal. Because if you're struggling building your own IP, why not go with the IP that's absolutely dominating right now? Like you're looking at a set of characters that at that time were only escalating in popularity. We're talking Iron Man at his peak. Spider-Man is about to cross into the MCU. We're talking about Thor and Captain America and the Avengers, Black Widow. Like it's very interesting to me that they did not see that as a massive, massive cash cow for themselves and just completely skipped it altogether. It's just so fascinating to think of what would have been had Xbox said yes. If you don't know how the story ends, the Marvel Games team then did have a meeting with the PlayStation executives, and those PlayStation executives said, abso-freaking-lutely, we're going to go on ahead and agree to this deal. and we will develop a Spider-Man game, handing that game over to the previously mentioned Insomniac, who then went on to make an absolutely astonishingly fantastic video game. It's also interesting to see that during that meeting between the executives from PlayStation and the executives from Marvel Games went on ahead and tried to sell PlayStation on this project as their version of an Arkham level video game, which is really cool to see that just how influential the Batman Arkham series was. Also kind of makes me upset as to how poorly treated the Arkham franchise has been by Warner Brothers, but that's a story for another time. The point being here, during that meeting, they agreed to go on ahead and do a Spider-Man game. They went ahead and handed it off to Insomniac to make. They went ahead and after that acquired Insomniac after the success of the Spider-Man game, which, by the way, if you guys are not aware, Spider-Man is one of the highest selling video games of all time with 20+ million copies sold. That is insane. So we're talking about an absolutely juggernaut of a success. In fact, I believe it is the second best selling PlayStation 4 / PlayStation 5 video game of all time. Only second to, I believe, The Last of Us that sold like 24 million copies. We could have seen a world where that game does not happen, or maybe that game happens, but it happens under the Xbox umbrella. And so the fact that they missed out on this partnership, the fact that they missed out on the potential of what this partnership could become, as we have seen with PlayStation now getting Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, and the upcoming Marvel's Wolverine video game, as well as, of course, the second Marvel Spider-Man video game that is coming down the pipeline as well. And who the heck knows what else they have planned further down the road. Again, this one is such a no-brainer. It's really, really fascinating, or would be fascinating, to hear the Xbox team reflect on this and talk to them and see what was the mindset that they were in as to why they would turn Marvel down. If they were the first ones that had first dibs on this deal and they said no, what was the thought process that they went through to arrive at that? Well, they were kind of struggling at that time, trying to get their footing back under them after the kind of lackluster launch of the Xbox One. And that's a valid point, but I feel like utilizing Marvel when it is unbelievably popular would have been a perfect way to get some momentum back under the Xbox brand. So there you guys have it. Let me know what you think. Do you think this is a giant blunder by Xbox and the team over there? Or do you disagree? Let me know down in the comment section below. Of course, don't forget to smash the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't yet. You can also support the channel by becoming a member. A link for that is down in the description box. And of course, you can click the join button next to the subscribe button if you want to go that route as well. Thanks all for watching. Get you all here next time. Peace out. See you later, alligators.
There's no risk if you don't try at anything, so I'ma just keep buying everything. See you in the next life, have to be a better me. I don't think that my head's on straight, gotta flip it and grip it and go and get an x-ray. What's wrong with me? I just feel weight pushing on my chest and it squeezes till I suffocate. Better change my mindset, meditate. It's pretty cool that I'm alive and have better days. I could walk, see, hear, I should celebrate. Think I could change my mind.